Emma, and I'm back with another astrology video, and in this video I'm starting a new series talking about toxic relationships dynamics that we can see through the charts of two people. I'm gearing this more towards romantic relationships, but this can go for any sort of relationship. This could be with a friend, this could be with a family member, and specifically in this video I'm starting this series off talking about Plutonic relationships or Plutonian themed relationships in astrology that we can see in both the synastry and the composite chart between two people, and what this means when this is showing up, when we're seeing this between two people in a relationship. So in astrology, Pluto represents what we want to bury, what we don't emotionally want to face because it's too difficult, too painful for us to take a look at. It also represents obsessive behaviors, obsessions, what we obsess over, jealousy, possessiveness, control, and power dynamics, usually out of a fear of insecurity and lack that we feel within ourselves. And Pluto, it's what we want to push away. It's not what we want to face. It's more of our shadow side. When we do take a look at our Pluto issues, this is when we can experience the most significant transformations in our life. This is when the biggest amount of growth occurs, and this is where we get our true strength and resilience from. So if you take a look at your birth chart, when you look at Pluto, not only the sign, not only the house, but really the aspects that Pluto is making to other planets in your chart, this is going to show where you can experience the most growth and biggest transformation, and where you can get your strength and resilience from. But it also shows your deepest insecurities and suffering. And specifically, I'm talking about aspects that are challenging aspects. So those hard aspects, those conjunctions, those oppositions, and those square aspects. Now, typically, someone who has a lot of these Pluto aspects in their own birth chart is more prone to getting themselves into these Plutonic or Plutonian themed relationships themselves. And this is because we sort of attract what we have to work out within ourselves that is reflected in our own birth charts. A lot of the time, this isn't even on a conscious level. This is subconscious. You are subconsciously attracting what it is that you feel you lack within yourself, what it is you are insecure about, what your biggest fear is, what you need to heal from. So it's very common if you have a lot of Pluto aspects in your chart that you could find yourself in these types of relationships. Now, when we are identifying these relationships, there's some key things that you want to look for in both the synastry and the composite chart between two people. But before I get into that, I'm just going to briefly go over the mythology of Pluto, so that can help you to understand these types of relationships a little bit better. So in the mythology, Pluto saw Persephone and he admired her because she had everything that he lacked. She had a carefree energy and a carefree way of expressing herself, and her love and her beauty were all things that Pluto felt that he lacked within himself. So he wanted her. He wanted to conquer her. He wanted to really control her because he felt like that was the only way to gain her love and affection. So he abducted her and took her with him to the underworld to make her his bride. Now, these relationships have heavy themes of control, power dynamics, obsessive behavior, jealousy, possessiveness, because Pluto feels like he's really not worthy of Persephone's love, that he, without trying to control her, without trying to create these walls, these boundaries within the relationship, that there's no way that she would want to be with him. So he tries to use these control and power dynamics and these manipulation tactics to keep this relationship together, because he feels like if he doesn't, there is this huge fear of abandonment and her leaving and not wanting to be with him, and there's a fear of rejection, and that's why the obsessive behavior, the possessiveness, the jealousy comes up a lot in these relationships. So Pluto feels like the only way to gain Persephone's love is to control her because he doesn't feel worthy of it. And this is all coming up from deep fears of abandonment, insecurity issues that he has within himself. So that's why this is a major theme within these relationships. And Persephone doesn't realize what is happening right away. doesn't realize what is going on until she is deeply in it, till there are deep ties and this deep connection here. And it's kind of like a frog in a pot of water. If you put a frog in a pot of boiling water, what will the frog do? It'll jump right out. But if you just put a frog in a normal pot of water and then it slowly starts to boil, the frog will not realize what is happening right away until the very end. Now, when we go to look at the astrology of these types of relationships, we want to look at both the synastry and the composite chart between two people. And we want to look for the aspects from Pluto to any of the personal planets. So specifically hard aspects. We're looking for the conjunctions, the squares, the oppositions. This is creating this friction between Pluto and these other planets. And you want to look at the personal planets specifically. So personal planets, I mean the sun, the moon, Mercury, Mars, Venus, the ascendant, descendant axis. You want to look at these major parts of the chart. And if there are several hard aspects from Pluto, you can be almost certain that this is going to be a Plutonic type of relationship, having these dynamics of control, jealousy, possessiveness, obsession, unhealthy obsession, a lot of guilt being manifested in these relationships as a way to control and manipulate. We will see a lot of that within these relationships. Now, when we're looking at the synastry, it is typically the Pluto person who is the one who is doing the controlling, doing the manipulating, who is jealous, and who is the overly possessive one. But if we see it on both ends, so if there are Pluto aspects from both people, then this could be being played out both ways. And typically, if we see a lot of Pluto aspects in the synastry chart, we will also see it in the composite. And the composite chart represents the chart of the relationship. So, well, the synastry chart is an overlay where we take two separate people's birth charts and layer them on top of each other to see how the planets in each of their birth charts are connecting. The composite chart is a midpoint chart. So it's taking the midpoints between both of these charts to make a separate third chart, which represents the relationship. It's the chart of the relationship, and it can show major themes and dynamics that are going to be present in this relationship. So really, it's taking the aspects from the synastry chart, and the composite chart shows how these connections from the synastry actually end up playing out in real life. So I pay attention to the composite chart a lot personally. I really like working with composite charts. So typically in these Plutonic relationships, you will see these heavy Pluto aspects in both the synastry and the composite chart. So the major themes that are present here are control, power, possessiveness, obsession, and jealousy. And these are all control and manipulation tactics used by Pluto to keep the Persephone person here in the relationship. So the Persephone person really feels like they cannot leave the Pluto person, because the Persephone person leaving the Pluto person is Pluto's worst fear, and they are going to try everything in their power to make that not a possibility for the Persephone person. And the Pluto person will actually convince themselves that what they're doing is in the best benefit of the Persephone person, that they are protecting them, that they are caring for them, that they're making sure that they're not putting themselves in danger, that they are keeping them safe. And by creating this control, these boundaries, then it helps the Persephone person. But that's not in actuality what is going on. They're not doing it out of love. They're not doing it as a way to show their love or to help the Persephone person. They're just telling themselves this. In actuality, they're doing this out of their own fear of abandonment, out of their own insecurity issues that they have themselves. And when you have to control someone, when you have to control a person, a relationship, that is not coming from a place of love. That is coming from a place of lack and that person's own insecurity issues. Some of the major signs that you could be in this type of relationship dynamic is if you feel like you have to change whole parts of who you are when you're in the presence of the Pluto person. And at first, when this relationship starts, it won't be in a completely blatant way. It will just be little digs or making you question what it is you're doing, making you question if you should be hanging out with this person that maybe you've been friends with for a long time, but the Pluto person is questioning if that is a healthy relationship, if that friend is actually a good friend to you. And they will start planting these seeds of doubt. And really, the Pluto person feels threatened by any other close relationship that you have in your life, because it threatens the relationship in their mind that you have with them, because they're thinking, well, if they have a closer relationship with someone else than me, then maybe they'll realize that I'm not so great, and then maybe they'll want to leave me. So any other close bonded relationship that you have with anyone else is going to be a threat to the Pluto person. So that's what I mean when I say changing parts of who you are, because soon after a while you'll realize that certain things that you say or certain things that you do, which really shouldn't be threats to the Pluto person, which really are actually just normal things, normal parts of who you are, but you feel like these things are a threat to the Pluto person, that it's bringing up them feeling jealous, them feeling insecure, and you just want to avoid that. You don't want to upset the Pluto person, because if you upset the Pluto person, then that is just not going to be a comfortable situation. So you try to not upset the Pluto person. You try to make them feel like there is no threat. So maybe you start to leave things out of things that you tell them, or you don't tell them everything that you do because you don't want them to feel insecure. You don't want them to get upset. You don't want them to get jealous or mad. So you don't feel comfortable completely being your true self around this person. And if the Persephone person tries to express how they feel, tries to express that this isn't normal, that they want to set boundaries, they don't feel like this is healthy, the Pluto person will completely reject this. There is no understanding here with these types of issues with the Pluto person. They are going to completely gaslight the Persephone person, make them feel like they're crazy, like they're asking for too much, that how they're feeling, them not wanting to do certain things or talk about certain things is normal. And over time, it's going to make the Persephone person feel like they are the crazy one, like they are asking for too much, or what they are asking for just isn't something that they should be asking for, or they are going to feel guilty. There's a lot of guilt that comes up in these relationships, and Pluto wants to create these circumstances for the Persephone person to feel guilty, because this guilt becomes the driving force in this relationship that makes Persephone feel like she is bonded to the Pluto person. It really becomes a relationship of guilt and manipulation above all else, certainly above love, because this isn't true love here. And the Pluto person will do certain things to make the Persephone person feel dependent on them, and they'll make it seem like, I'm doing this for you, I am helping you, I'm trying to make your life easier, I love you so much, so I'm working so hard for you to make it so you don't have to worry about anything. And there's a lot of ways that the Persephone person can feel dependent on the Pluto person. A lot of the times this comes from the Persephone person feeling alienated from all of the other relationships in our life. If the Pluto person doesn't like those relationships and says, this person isn't good for you, I don't think that you should be around this person, or even if it's been a close friend of them for a long time. Or the Persephone person knows that if they spend time with this person, if they spend too much time with that person, that it's going to make the Pluto person jealous. So slowly over time, really, they are more and more disconnected from all of the other relationships that they have in their life, really, other than the Pluto person. Or this can be financially. The Pluto person can, over time, make it so they don't want the Persephone person to work or have their own job or make their own money or have their own goals and ambitions, because having their own goals and ambitions is a way that the Persephone person is bettering themselves. And the Pluto person really doesn't like that. The Pluto person doesn't want the Persephone person to change or feel like they can do better or be better. And they might not even realize this on a fully conscious level, but this is the truth of the matter, because the Persephone person having bigger goals and ambitions and being independent and self-reliant is a fear of the Pluto person, because this makes it harder for the Pluto person to control the Persephone person. So the Pluto person creates this environment where Persephone feels financially dependent on them and emotionally dependent on them, and is alienated from everything else in their life that they used to be connected to before they knew the Pluto person. Then the Persephone person feels like it's not really an option for them to leave. They can't see a way for them to get out. They can't see a way for them to leave. And there has been so much gaslighting, so much guilt about if they do this thing wrong, if they do that thing wrong, having to walk on eggshells around the Pluto person, trying not to upset them, trying not to make them feel jealous, make them feel insecure, trying not to do anything wrong. And the Pluto person is convincing the Persephone person that the problem is them, that if only they did X, Y, and Z different, if only they didn't do these things to make them feel jealous, then these issues wouldn't be happening. So it's this cycle of gaslighting and control and manipulation, and this keeps the Persephone person stuck. But the Persephone person is also contributing to this dynamic as well, because they're not standing up for themselves, they're not setting these healthy boundaries and not requiring more. So it's really not until the Persephone person starts to wake up to what is really going on here, because it can be very hard for the Persephone person to see things clearly, to fully understand what is going on, because the Pluto person tries to make it seem like, no, they're doing these things for them, that they're doing these things to help them because they love them so much. They're not portraying themselves as this evil monster. They're portraying themselves as this person who cares so much about the Persephone person, that they're working so hard for them to create this life for them, to create this safe space for them in this relationship, that they're living their purpose in their life, and everything that they do is for the Persephone person, that it's hard at first for the Persephone person to fully realize what is going on. But once they do start to wake up, that's when things start to shift and change. Eventually, the Persephone person will become exhausted of always feeling guilty, of always feeling like they can never do anything right fully in the Pluto person's eyes. Like the Pluto person is a ticking time bomb, and it's just a matter of time before there's some other small issue that upsets the Pluto person, that makes them jealous, that makes them feel insecure, something isn't right, and the Persephone person will eventually get tired of feeling like they can't truly be who they are around the Pluto person, and they're going to miss who they used to be, because before they met the Pluto person, they were carefree. They were more of who they really are. They were able to really enjoy life and to express all of their interest outside of this relationship, outside of this Pluto person, and pursue more of what it is that they want themselves and what it is that they truly desire for themselves, without feeling like someone is going to judge them or someone is going to feel threatened through what it is that they believe in, or what it is that they think, what it is that they want to do for themselves. So the Persephone person will eventually just get worn down and get tired of this dynamic, and will eventually start to do things to try to gain some of her power back, try to connect herself more with who she really is, who she was before she met the Pluto person. And she will crave this independence. She will crave that connection to who it is she really is, and she will want to feel like that person again. She will start to really miss who she used to be and miss what her life was before the Pluto person. And she'll just get so worn down with these manipulation tactics, this control, and feeling like nothing is good enough, feeling like she just completely lost herself in this. So she will start to do things to try to connect herself with who she used to be. And this could be her reaching out to people that she disconnected with, people that she was closer friends with before, or hobbies that she had that she hasn't really been pursuing since she met the Pluto person. Anything that really connects her to who she really is and connects her to the old way that she used to be. But of course, she knows that she can't do this around the Pluto person because this will only make the Pluto person jealous, and this will just cause fights and issues. So she will have to lie and start to sneak around behind the Pluto person's back to try to feel this sense of happiness and freedom and try to connect herself with these things without the Pluto person knowing. And once the Persephone person starts to feel this happiness again, starts to see glimmers of her old life and happiness outside of this relationship, that's when things start to crumble. And this is Pluto's worst fear coming true, because this relationship only works if there is control here. That is the only way that this relationship works, because this is not a relationship based on the foundation of love and mutual respect and healthy boundaries and everything that a healthy relationship should be. This relationship is not that. So Persephone, once she puts her foot down and once she makes these clear, healthy boundaries, then this relationship just falls apart. So once she starts to pursue her own interests and her own life and things that she enjoys for herself and regains her freedom and her independence, and the more that she realizes that this is what truly makes her happy, not this dynamic of control and manipulation and power and obsession and jealousy, that doesn't make her happy. That was all an illusion of safety, because when there are boundaries put in place, even if they're not healthy boundaries, in a way, a lot of the times this can make us feel safe, even if they're completely destructive and not healthy at all. Having these rules, having these boundaries can make a person feel safe, make a person feel safe within that dynamic and within that relationship. And the more and more manipulation and gaslighting, the more that that person starts to identify with the desires of the other person, and the more they think that that dynamic is okay. And it's not. So once she starts to realize that it's not, and once she starts to realize that this isn't what love is, and she's desiring real love, the Pluto person starts to lose their power and their control over the Persephone person. And then they just freak out when this starts to happen. Pluto person will begin to notice that the Persephone person is doing things that step outside of the walls that have been created in this relationship, these boundaries, these unhealthy boundaries and restrictions that have been put in place in this relationship. And once the Pluto person realizes this and starts to notice this, this is their worst fear coming true, and everything will just start to crumble for them. And they will try everything. They will try to manipulate. They will try to do everything. They will try to guilt. Manipulation and guilt are the main things that the Pluto person will use to try to regain control, to get the Persephone person back to where they want them to be. And they will start blaming. They will start blaming the Persephone person, saying that they shouldn't be doing this, they shouldn't be doing that. And they will guilt them, saying, look at everything I have provided for you. Look at everything that I've done for you. Look at, I do so much for you. I love you so much. And I do this for you. I do that for you. And this is how you treat me after everything I've done, after everything I have done. And I have been living my life purely for you, to take care of you and your needs. And it's just all guilt. They will do everything to try to guilt the Persephone person, and the Persephone person has to stay really strong, because if they fall back into this pattern, if they fall into this guilt, if they fall into this manipulation, then it's just, they're going to go right back to where they were before. But once the Persephone person has had enough, once they are exhausted from just this whole dynamic, because it's exhausting. It's exhausting to try so hard to please someone who is never going to feel fully satisfied and pleased until they deal with their own issues, which is really what the Pluto person needs to do, to deal with their own issues of insecurity and jealousy and lack and abandonment issues that they feel within themselves. And not try to treat someone else as a possession and control someone to try to control and keep their own issues at bay. So It's always going to be the Persephone person's fault. It's always going to be their fault. It's never going to be the Pluto person's fault in their eyes. And once the Persephone person really stays strong and decides, this isn't what I thought I signed up for. I signed up for a loving relationship, and that's what I thought I was getting, but this isn't what this is, and they put their foot down and they decide that they want to leave, they have to be strong. And this isn't going to be an amicable breakup. This isn't going to be a breakup where there's mutual respect or love there. It's not going to be cordial. This is going to be a messy breakup, and the Pluto person is never going to accept it. They're never going to accept it. They're never going to want to be on good terms with the Persephone person unless they're trying to manipulate their way back and get them back in. But there's no respect there. There's no unconditional love there. The Pluto person is never going to respect the Persephone person's wishes. And in a healthy relationship, when there's a breakup, the person who is getting broken up with will feel sad, they will feel hurt and heartbroken. But if there is real love there, they will want the other person to be happy. They will want the other person to go on and live a happy life, even if it means that it's not with them. And even if it hurts them and makes them sad and heartbroken, they will still want the best for the other person, even if it means that they are not the best person for them. But this isn't a healthy relationship. So the Pluto person will never accept this. And when the Persephone person goes to break up with the Pluto person will turn into a monster. They will turn into someone that the Persephone person didn't even know existed. They will just have a full-on tantrum, and it's all going to be blame. It's all going to be blaming the Persephone person. I did this for you. I should have known that you were like this. I should have known that I couldn't trust you. I should have known that I shouldn't have given you my entire life. And they're going to list out everything that they did for the Persephone person. But once the Persephone person is woken up to all of this, there's really nothing that the Pluto person can do to get them back, because the Persephone person already knows that all of this is manipulation, all of this is control, all of this is just manipulation and control to try to manipulate their way back into the relationship. But the Persephone person really has to stay strong in this, and they are likely going to have to block the person. They're going to have to go no contact and completely cut the Pluto person off. The Pluto person is likely not going to give up on their own. They won't give up on their own. This is the type of person who will stalk the Persephone person, and they will try to do everything that they possibly can to get them back, everything that they can. But once they realize that the Persephone person isn't giving in, that they're not playing into these games anymore, that they can't control them, then they are not going to be interested, because that's really what they want. They want someone that they can control, because they haven't sorted out the issues within themselves of why this is even coming up to begin with. So once they feel like they cannot control the Persephone person and they can't conquer them, then they're going to give up and they're not going to be interested anymore. But there has to be hard boundaries. There has to be blocking the person, ignoring the person, just completely wiping the Pluto person from their life for this to happen. And if we go back to what I was saying in the beginning of the video, what Pluto represents our biggest fears and what we want to bury, what we don't want to face within ourselves, obsession, control, possessiveness, jealousy issues. And this is the major theme in this relationship. But the other thing that Pluto represents is transformation, strength, and resilience. And this is what the Persephone person gets from this relationship. Once she's able to come out on the other side, she becomes stronger. She has more wisdom, has more strength and resilience. And her life is forever changed and transformed through this relationship, and she becomes stronger from it. And that is the transformation that Pluto has here for her. Now, in terms of the Pluto person, what the Pluto person really needs to face and transform is their own jealousy issues and control issues. And this is all coming from feelings of fear of abandonment and insecurity. So Pluto is needing to learn the lessons of self-love and address their fears of abandonment. So these relationships are extremely intense, very unhealthy and toxic when the both the people are deeply in it and deeply invested in it, but there is a lot of transformations that can occur on the other side once these relationships end. Now, like I was saying in the beginning, this could be played out by both people. A lot of the time, it's one person is the Pluto person. More often than not, it's really more often there's one person that's the Pluto person, one person that is playing out the role of the Persephone person, but it can go back and forth, and it could be the Pluto person could be a woman and the Persephone person could be a man. It could go either way. So it just depends. This is how this relationship ends up playing out. And this is what we see a lot of the time when there are heavy, heavy themes of Pluto, of aspects from Pluto and hard aspects in the synastry and the composite chart. So I hope that this video helped you. If maybe you have experienced this type of relationship in the past, if you're going through a relationship, if you're in a relationship with this, like this right now, I hope that this video helped you to get some more clarity and a deeper understanding of this dynamic. Please leave your comments below of your thoughts if you've had experiences in these types of relationships. I would love to hear from you guys. And if you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe for more videos like this one.